Where did I put those damn earbuds? I have a pair of earbuds that I usually plug in so I can check my mic quality. And as of right now, I don't see them. So if you'd like to help me do a little sound check, just let me know if I sound okay or if I sound like a Russian helicopter pilot. Oh well, I hate doing this, but I'm going to have to do it to try and check, so we shall see. I'm just going to continue talking for a moment. Let me check my microphone here. Yep, I sound like the Russian helicopter pilot, so give me just a second. Do a check 1, 2 this time, and should be good to go. Still bad. Well, it should be better now at least. Can't tell if it got any better or not. Let's have a look and see. I just really wish I had my earbuds, but I sadly can't find them. But everything sounds to be better now, so we should be okay for the time being. Back and at it, as we are now live with free practice. Tricks at top of the board, but no one has set a time yet. So we will just have to wait and see what our times are going to look like. We should be well into the sub 2 minute mark, which is very, very quick here around Bathurst. Who is that getting it all wrong? Was the 25. I believe that is the 25 of Christian B, who will return to the pit lane, get it back out on track, and go for another lap. Trixit should be on the out lap already. Let's go on with a little onboard with Trixit. See what this whole Bathurst thing is all about. There's already some carnage up front. Trixit will get on the brakes and avoid that. A good bit of practice for the actual races, regardless of how quick you are and whatever sort of skill you have. Video game racing or real life, it is impossible to avoid an incident here at Mount Panorama. Welcome in, Rabe. And Trixit going up the inside of Manelli to the set of corners. And down into the final corner. Should be good to go. 202.827 from Marvy in the Aston Martin. Top time on the board for now. Again, it won't be the quickest time that we have out there on the board, as we should see times well into the sub 2 minute mark, but for a track that is developing, this is at least a good starting point. Qualifying here will be a show for sure. Again, we are going to have our split qualifying. That is the P31 McLaren of Silva, trying to open up the gap before he goes for a lap. That wide panorama shot coming up through the cutting is just about as good as it gets. Down into Skyline through the S's. This is going to be the tricky spot on track. If you get it wrong here, you get it wrong for pretty much the entire lap. If you get it really wrong, it's your entire race gone in just a flash. If you don't get on the brakes, or if you get too much of the curve, don't slow the car down enough before you get down to the dipper. It is going to be a very bad day for you. Giant into the top spot with a 2:01, but Phoenix Gecko in the BMW with a 2-minute 7:82. James Earl Jones in the Lexus, currently P6, top in AM at the moment. And let me go ahead and pull up the live timing so I can follow along there. And if you would like to follow along with the time as well, you can just click on that link in the Twitch chat and it will take you to the timing screen where you can watch the live timing. It's best to see what the time of our AM drivers will be. Currently, James Earl Jones 2:03.216, top time in AM. And welcome to those of you watching on the YouTube side as well. Sylph fastest now, 2-minute 6:78, about a 10th quicker than the time set by Phoenix. But again, we will see times down into the sub 2-minute mark. It will take some time for everybody to get developed and get to that point, but we will be at that point, that is for sure. Coming up through the cutting, through Quarry Corner, then Reed Park and Frog Hollow. Just inside to outside, floating it, trying to get as close to the wall as possible, stretch out the track as far as you can before you cut into the next corner to carry as much speed as possible. Carrying a lot of speed down through the S's into the dipper is Sylph, very tight to that inside wall. And you have to be absolutely on the limit if you're going to push anything relative for a top spot on the board, especially with as competitive of a field as we have here at GoFAST Racing, especially in this record-breaking Season 5. How many do we have on the track for tonight? We have 41 cars on the track looking to take the green flag. There is still some time for a couple more to join in. Sylph right now quickest on the board. A lot of time left in practice, and it doesn't matter quite yet. You've got to be able to replicate this lap in the 10-minute qualifying session that we will have here coming in about 20 minutes for the pro field. Our AM field will get a 10-minute qualifying session to start out our qualifying. 2-minute 1:86 from Sylph. He says that's as good as it'll do on those tires. Phoenix Gecko had a bit of improvement as well, maybe improving on this lap once again, and we'll have the slipstream. The P23 Ferrari of Brad Zilla. Bit of a look at our championship standings. Prieto still in the lead, just by 1 point ahead of the teammate of Ouroboros, Sylph, in P3, Griffith P4, Ormiston P5, Slapshot P6. For the last spot on the podium, and really overall for the championship, it is technically anybody's fight. Sylph has jumped up if you calculate the drop races, as Sylph has not raced in every race this season. And in AM, currently Shuby, the AM champion leader, or the AM championship leader. Silva jumps up there if you incorporate those drop races included, and that entire top three for the AM class gets shuffled all around. Giant goes second fastest in the McLaren. Sylph, currently the only driver right on the cusp of that sub 2-minute mark. Almost losing it. Giant coming through Reed Park and Frog Hollow. Now up through Skyline, taking it a little bit safer, not getting too much of that inside curb through the S's. It could be car dependent on how much of that curb you use. You got to be quite brave to use it, as it will increase your braking distance if you lift that front wheel off the ground, hitting that curb a little bit too hard. Sylph, the current practice leader, at the front of the field. We'll go on board with Sylph here as we cross the start-finish line into turn 1 held corner. And if you were wondering how it gets its name, just wait for the first lap of this race and it should be fairly clear to you. Coming up the mountain straight, it is a long, trudging climb up the hill before you get to the crest down into Griffin's Bend. A slight burst of speed, but you will see drag races all the way up and down the mountain straight now into Griffin's Bend, trying to get the car floated out to the outside as far as possible, not going past the curb, not going into the wall. Now up into the cutting, late apex, braking just about the kink of the wall, then trying to rotate that car on the power as smooth as possible. Now we come up through Quarry Corner and Reed Park, that orange BP Ultimate, or green BP Ultimate wall on the inside, just trying to barely get as close to it as possible. The drivers will touch it on their lap. Coming out of Frog Hollow, just trying to rotate the car once again for McPhillamy down into Skyline on the brakes, trying to float the car down through before you get hard on the brakes at the very bottom of the hill for the dipper. Once again, inside wall to inside wall, trying to just get as close as possible without making contact with that concrete wall. They're not very soft. And now down into the elbow. A bit sloppy for Silth there. We'll see if this lap is going to be an improvement. I wouldn't think so with that line down into the elbow. We shall see down the Conrod Straight, where you will pretty much be putting these cars to their absolute top speed. Being downhill, you get the speed of the long straight at Paul Ricard in about half the distance. Come into the chase. Turn 21. Kick of 22 down into the final corner. Murray's corner, T23. And again, just trying to rotate. That killer curve on the inside can disrupt your lap, no matter how much time that you think you've got in it. Cross the line, and it will not be an improvement for Silth, as I suspected, as he came through the elbow a bit deep. But I can guarantee you right there, that would be a good lap for the race. And consistency is key here at Bathurst. Scroll into the top spot in AM. James Earl Jones in the Lexus with 9 thousandths of a second the gap to gain. We'll see if Jones gets it on this lap or not. Across the line, no, will not have it. We'll need some more room for improvement, or maybe not wasting the good lap, just getting some more practice for consistency in here at the end of free practice. Griffith in the Mustang, someone that we have seen work their way up through the leaderboard pretty rapidly. Could be looking for a good result. The Mustang's fairly strong here with their top speed. If you've got a Mustang behind you down the Conrod Straight, there's not really much that you can do to keep them behind. Marvy in the Aston Martin, we did see him up towards the front of the field, at least early in free practice. That line right there is not going to move you much further up the field, but still looking for a good qualifying time from Marvy. Peach in the Mustang, another one to watch. Very, very quick in the Mustang. Just has not quite had everything go his way so far this season. And in a bit of a scrap with the Porsche. I believe that is the 25 or the 55 Porsche, P24 Porsche of Zoenom. We have seen have a massive improvement in the AM class. And we'll cut on over to the pit lane for a practice pit stop. Silth is back out and has the Mercedes in tow. I believe that is the P34 number 83 M&M Racing Mercedes AMG of Chandler. Slapshot 1-2 watch here at Bathurst. Hasn't been putting much for laps in here in free practice, but had the pole with a last second across the line. An absolute theft of the pole position. Will we see a similar result from Slapshot? I believe it was Slapshot taking that top spot away from Ormiston last time we were here at Bathurst. And while Slapshot did put it on the pole last time, he did not bring home the result that he was looking for, getting caught up in an early incident in the race and losing quite a few positions. No lap set by Slapshot yet. Don't rule him out for that top spot. Bit wide through the cutting. Should be okay. Just looking for a valid lap from Slapshot here. Again, a tight fight for the top spot in AM. Less than 0.2 of a second separating the top three there. Ouroboros moves up into second place, bumping Giant down to P3. Phoenix Gecko down to P4. Everybody above him down a spot. Prieto currently P10. We have seen Prieto pull some late session moves as well. Slapshot looking for some improvement here in the toe of the Mustang. It should definitely be a good help, as everyone out on track should be able to get one more lap in, aside from those few who are just coming up the mountain straight right now. That is the 63 Mustang of Lynch just ahead of Slapshot. Slapshot having to go a bit too deep and will invalidate that lap. He will have another opportunity, but he won't take it into the pit lane. And he will try to put it together in qualifying. Ouroboros looking to take the championship away from the teammate. Currently second in the overall standings and very much in the conversation for that overall championship. The Animus Racing boys have pretty much locked it down for the team championship here in Season 5. As they've got almost double the points of Team BDK Mod in second place, but fight for the podium in the team championship is very, very close. 2 points between Team BDK Mod and Slap Your Mom Racing. Smooth Operators about 20 points behind those two. Ouroboros improved just a bit more. 39 thousandths of a second away from Sylph. Jones got back in the top spot in AM. See if Salinas is able to bring any improvement. Currently P19. And just a bit of a confidence booster. Does have some damage on the side of that McLaren though. And we'll bump up to P15. Doesn't mean anything though. This is just free practice. Aramich, who needs a good result, has not had one this season, or at least not one that he would necessarily be proud of. Currently P8 in practice. Brute in the Aston Martin as well goes P24. The Aston Martin's at least a little bit further up the grid than usual. At least a good sign for the Aston Martin drivers. And a fair mix of cars at the top. The top four different manufacturers. Will we see an Aston Martin up there in the top 3? It's not impossible. Everyone more so running their race consistency setups, I would believe, more than their full-on attack qualifying setups, as we have not seen any times into the sub 2 minute mark, but we will in qualifying. What about For Your Mom? Currently P14, goes up to P8. Does Ouroboros steal the top spot at the end of free practice? No, he does not. And what about for the number 20 Porsche? That will be it. AM qualifying has started, and the AM drivers will get rolling. Who is out first? It does seem to be the 555 Aston Martin of Manelli, who will be the first AM driver to take the track. And the rest of the field follows. A large gap between Manelli and the rest of the AM field, but that means he won't be getting any slipstream help from anyone up ahead unless he comes back around and catches somebody. There is a high possibility that somebody comes out of the pit lane in front of him. Maybe you want slipstream help here, maybe you don't. If you've got a teammate, you're definitely going to be looking for them down the Conrad and Mountain Straights if you can. Up through the cutting. Quarry Corner, Frog Hollow, Reed Park. Not quite getting all the way up to the wall. But it is only a warm-up lap, trying to warm up the tires, get the car ready to go. Qualifying fuel, probably 2 laps in the car before you come back into the pit lane and try and go for another. Soft tires and low tire pressures to get as much grip out there on track as you can. Out of Forest Elbow, or the Bentley Elbow as it was with the version that we have here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Down the Conrad Straight, looking for the chase. And Aston Martin at full song before you get hard on the brakes, going down through the gears for the final few corners here at Bathurst Mount Panorama. Out of Murray's and across the line to start the first official flying lap of AM qualifying. If this one is valid, then Manelli will be setting the pace for the AM field. Ones to watch in this AM field. Peachy going to be one to watch, I believe taking a podium last week at Snetterton while I was gone. Silva definitely going to be one to watch. One of the top runners in AM. If he has the bravery to run hard here at Bathurst, could definitely be expected to see him at the top. Brother Elmo, another one to watch as well. Manelli in the Aston Martin has just been denied the promotion into the pro field, has been so close to the AM championship. Does not seem to be like it will be another run for that AM championship this season, but there's still plenty of time left in the season. Scroll, who was at the top of the field here in free practice, will be looking for a good time in qualifying. Schwartz and the Mustang definitely one to watch as well. I don't believe that we have Shuby on track. Another one to watch. And where is the Lexus of Jones? Jones' top time in free practice for AM. Going to be another one to watch, and definitely seems to be pushing on this first out lap. We'll see what kind of time the 5.55 of Manelli will bring to the fold. Has a 99 of Schwartz just ahead, and I think just barely outside of slipstream range. Coming into the final corner, what'll it be for Manelli? Schwartz actually the first one out of 202.212. Manelli 6 seconds slower. So definitely going to be needing to find some improvement. Scroll goes P2, Christian Beek P3 so far, and just about halfway through the AM qualifying session. Silva goes second fastest. The Porsche of Zoanam 7th, now P8. Chandler up to P4. Clint in P8. Jones moves up to P4. Still plenty more to come across the line, but it is Schwartz and the Mustang top of the order halfway through AM qualifying. Thank you for the subscription, Dingham. I greatly appreciate that. And if anybody else has a Twitch Prime or an Amazon Prime subscription and you would like to use your Twitch Prime subscription, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. And you get no ads. I don't really run many, just in the break between the race and qualifying. And that's just so new people finding the stream don't have to watch any ads in the process. Down into the chase for Schwartz. Just a little bit more time left in this qualifying session for the AM drivers. There will be 2 more laps. At least 2 more laps at most for our AM drivers. 201.507 for Schwartz. It's a good improvement. Manelli moves up to P9. The 81 of Scroll, currently P4, will stay P4. Mustang of Christian B will stay P8. 720 of Silva knocks 0.6 out of that gap, is the only driver currently within a second of Schwartz. Peachy across the line. Jones currently P6, Elmo P5. See if Peachy has any improvement here, is third currently. Bit of a slide coming out of Murray's and jumps into that less than 1 second away from Schwartz zone as well. Schwartz still your top driver in AM. A very large bang against the wall. I think that may have invalidated the lap. And he will have one more opportunity after this one. One AM driver still yet to qualify is the 12 Ferrari of Nightwalker. And the 999 Ferrari of Sierra, I think possibly opting to not qualify, start from the back of the field, and hope to survive the carnage at the beginning of the race. The 12 of Nightwalker across the line. Will this be a valid lap and put Nightwalker on the board? It will be. It's good enough for P8. What about for Schwartz? No, not going to go for another into the pit lane. It's currently P1 in AM for Schwartz, but will it stay that way? Chandler in the pit lane, Bradzilla in the pit lane, Lynch in the pit lane, and Sierra in the pit lane. All of those drivers will not be able to improve. And your pole sitter Schwartz currently in the pit lane as well. PG P3rd. Scrolios is P4. What about for Silva? Is it good enough for pole? It's not any improvement. Has one more opportunity to try and find that 635 thousandths of a second, 6.3 tenths of a second to try and find. Jones goes third. Who is that behind Clint in the Mustang, currently P12. The 333 Aston Martin of K with a bit of damage on the front of that Aston Martin. Will he find any improvement here? Again, we'll have one more opportunity and will be the last of the AM drivers to cross the start-finish line. And 30 seconds away from our AM pro qualifying starting. Silt isn't there at the front, but there is quite the queue at the end of the pit lane, and that looks to be the number 3 Ferrari of Ouroboros at the very front, who wants to lead the charge out onto the track. It's Nightwalker at the front to bring it into AM qualifying, 12 seconds away from the pros being let out of the pit lane. Bulls are about to be released. Sorry, Dingham letting me know that Sierra and Phoenix have qualifying bans, so they will not be able to qualify. And that may be more of a blessing than a curse here at Bathurst. Nightwalker into the pit lane will not improve. Nelly into the chase. And it's laid on the brakes. I don't think this will be an improvement on this lap. Pros are let out onto the racing surface as they will get started. Our AM field is just getting finished. Silva needs 0.6 of a second. He doesn't dive into the pit lane. He thinks he's got some in his pocket. Across the line, what'll it be for Silva? A couple tenths taken out, but it's not enough for the top spot. Schwartz survives another lap. What about for Jones? Needs 8.2 tenths of a second. We'll see if he's got it. He was up there in free practice. Is it any improvement here for Jones? No, it is not. What about the 55 of Zoenom? Currently P16 in and bumps up to P14. That will bring it into his qualifying session, and Cabe in the Aston Martin will pull into the pit lane to end his qualifying session as well. We will hop on board with the number 3 Ferrari of Ouroboros, and we will read off our AM starting order. Schwartz takes pole in AM, Silva P2, Jones P3, Peachy P4, Scroliosis P5, Elmo P6, Chandler P7, Nightwalker P8, Christian BP9, Cade P10, Manelli P11, Clint P12, Lingard P13, Zoenon P14, Bradzilla P15, Lynch P16, and Sierra P17. It's Ouroboros to start the first flying lap of our pro qualifying. It is a Ferrari at the front of the field. Are they queuing up behind? We will go back to the Nissan of Prieto. There is a little bit of a gap that has developed, but not much queuing at the start of this qualifying. It will still be the teammate to the champion who will bring us our first lap of qualifying. Granted, this lap is valid. Let's have a look on board with Ouroboros, who should very well know how to push the limits of the track. Watch that BP Ultimate green wall on the inside, and we should just near touch it. It's a bit of a lift, and they can carry too much speed through. What about the outside walls at Frog Hollow and Reed Park? Just about touching them on the outside curb before you rotate the car into McPhillamy. Down into Skyline. Once again, very close to that inside wall. Once again, through the S's and the Dipper. Just trying to stay as close to the inside as possible. Rotate without over-rotating the rear of the car. Put down the power as quick as possible and rotate nice and early. Float it out nice and wide. It's a bit of a wiggle coming out of the elbow for Ouroboros. And also has a couple pro competitors immediately behind. That is the 456 McLaren of Tychopath and the Porsche, the number 20 Porsche of Adrian. Ouroboros in the Ferrari should be the top time of the session if he's quicker than Schwartz. Was right at the 2-minute mark. It is a 2-minute 9:45. It is the top time. Tychopath and Adrian both go P3 and P4 behind Schwartz. Tricks it. Bumps up into the second spot. And currently, the second driver... Sorry, not the second driver. There is only one driver currently in the sub-201s. Again, we will see times down into the sub-2-minute mark. Don't think that we will see any 158s, but we should very well see some 159s. Griffith in the Mustang goes second fastest. Silth goes fastest, though, 2-minute 7:53. And using that open air, waiting for the rest of the field to go on ahead. Still quite a few of our pros to watch. Phoenix again has that qualifying ban, but we saw was very, very quick. Slapshot goes up the order, currently P15 though. It has quite the room to improve. The top 11 within a second, and Silth, I think, had a catastrophic failure. Is that an equipment failure of some sort, or did he just get it all wrong? Very hard in the wall, will waste about a minute. We'll have to get back out on track. Hopefully not an equipment failure, but it looked like it may have been. Don't usually see accidents like that from our pros in qualifying. But he must have been absolutely pushing. Ouroboros just needs 2/10 on this lap to jump back into the top spot ahead of Silth. And we'll see if Ouroboros has it rolling down into the final corner with confidence. And very nice, just barely making contact with the inside curb. It is good enough for pole position. 2 minutes 6:60 for Ouroboros. Griffith in the Mustang looking to compete. Prieto in the Nissan GTR. Godzilla back at home. This is the track where the car earned the name. Will we see Godzilla reign again down under? We'll just have to wait and see. Brute goes fastest in the Aston Martin, a 2 minute 6:47, 13,000ths of a second quicker than Ouroboros. And an Aston Martin on top, at least for the time being. It was a short time being. Griffith with a 2 minute 4:55, as the times are now quickly dropping. Just about everybody will get 2 more laps left. I think everybody on track will have 2 more laps. Anybody who is in the pit lane will just have 1 more lap. Yellow limit in the McLaren in the pit lane. I believe that is our only pro driver in the pit lane aside from Phoenix, who has no other option but to be in the pit lane. The 4 of Langley, currently P23, jumps up to P22, still has a bit of time to find. The 10 of Salinas in the McLaren across the line, 1.2 seconds off of pole, knocks about 4/10 of that gap out, up to P11. Your top 13 now just about within a second. Top 14 really Schwartz, your AM leader, just a second off of our pros. We still don't have any pro times into that sub 2 minute mark. It's getting down into crunch time. It's about a 2 minute lap, less than 2 minutes to go. 2 minute warning here in our pro qualifying. And quite a large group of cars coming to the line. Trixit goes P8. Any improvement from Brute? No, not on that lap. None from Prieto either. Adrian in the Porsche doesn't improve. Silth into P5, or down into P5. Prieto gets bumped down. It was Peach in the Mustang that slotted in there. Peach currently P3, outrunning the previous champion teammate of Ormiston. I'm not sure if we have Ormiston here with us tonight. I don't think we do. So in the Mustang crowd, there is definitely some big shoes to fill. Silth definitely one with feet big enough to fill those shoes. Ouroboros 2 minute 2:67. Griffith just 1.8 or just about 1.9 tenths behind. And I think this may be the final lap for Ouroboros. Marvy comes into the pit lane, will not be able to go any quicker than P8. What about the 4:56 of Tychopath across the line? We'll be able to get 1 more lap. What is it for Tychopath? Currently P19, stays P19, has 1 more opportunity to improve. Salinas will just barely make it back across the line, currently P15. The 4:43 of Silth has this lap and 1 more. No improvement on that previous lap. Next across the line, the 2:21 of Giant up to P5. The number 5 of Pac-Man making a return here to GoFAST Racing up to P22. And the 3 of Ouroboros will just barely cross the line. No improvement. The 86 of Trixit, currently P12, needs to find something. Also has the Aston Martin of Brute behind. P8 for Trixit, P4 for Brute, P5 for Prieto, P3 for Aeromich, P20 for Adrian. It will be P13 for Nate, no better. It will be P16 for Iceberg, P22 for Pac-Man. What about for the 21? Should I be able to find it, of Platypus? In the Mercedes, Coming down to the final corner currently, P12, looking for some sort of improvement, doesn't need much, goes up to P9, finds just a couple tenths. The 71 of Slap Your Mom, or the 71 of Your Mom with Slap Your Mom Racing goes P11. What about for Slap himself? No. P13, no last second redemption for the Slap Your Mom Racing McLaren driver. Previous pole sitter here at Bathurst, and will sit back in the nosebleeds in P13 and watch the leaders battle up front. Out of Murray's for Tycho Path, trying to find some improvement. Again, tight margins here, don't need much to improve. We'll stay P18. What about for Silth? Is it the last hurrah? Will be the last car to cross the line. And it is 2-minute 2:04. No sub 2-minute laps, but 63 thousandths of a second the margin between the top two, and Silth takes it home. And then disconnects. What has happened to Silth there? Is Ouroboros going to get handed the pole? So in qualifying, Silth was fastest. Ouroboros P2, Griffith P3, Aramage P4, Peach P5, Brute P6, Prieto P7, Giant P8, Platypus P9, Trixit P10, Your Mom P11, Marvy P12, Slapshot P13, Nate P14, Selena's P15, Iceberg P16, Schwartz P17, Adrian P18, Tycho P19, YOLO Lemon P20, Silva P21, Pac-Man P22, Langley P23, Jones P24, Peachy P25, Francisco P26, Dingham P27, Scroliosis P28, Elma P29, Chandler P30, Nightwalker 31, Christian B32, Cabe 33, Benelli 34, Clint 35, Lingard 36, Yakashokas 37, Zoanon 38, Bradzilla 39, Lynch 40, Phoenix P41, Sierra P42, and Guzman P43. That's your starting grid. We will take a short break and be right back. So give us just a moment, and we will be back with our formation lap. So we are actually about to have a quick server reset, since we did have a few drivers crash there at the end. So this will not be the race start, but we will be getting started shortly. So no one will really get moving, or they may go for a little bit of a start, but for the most part, it's not really going to be worth anything. So there are some drivers that are rolling for the formation lap, but it is not really going to be doing anything. We will be resetting the server with our quali order input, so just give us a moment. We have had a few drivers that got dropped off at the end of qualifying, and from there we will restart the session and get rolling with our race. Thank you, Phil the Beats, for the follow. Really appreciate it. We just hit 620. So we will have a quick reset, and then we will be back racing. Again, thank you to those of you watching on the YouTube side. Greatly appreciate it. And if you're following on Twitch, and if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I greatly appreciate it if you would. It's under the same name. Maybe I need to make a chatbot timer for it. But we have about a third of the subscribers on Twitch as we do followers on YouTube. And if you are watching on the YouTube side, I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and maybe drop a comment for me, as it helps me out getting picked up in the algorithm and things like that. And any of you guys who post any comments there on the YouTube, I do read all of those, so thank you for the kind words from all of you guys. As we are just waiting for a quick server reset. And it looks like we have already got our server reset. Couple minutes just sitting in the pit lane before we get started once again. Quick last minute practice for anybody who wants to take it. Is that the 443 of Sylph out there? No, it is not. Was it the 427 of Nate? No, it wasn't. It was one of the Mustangs, but I couldn't quite exactly tell which one. I think it may have been the 33 of Lingard, and it was. Just a few more seconds and we will be back to start the formation lap. Everybody getting some time to make sure their setups are correct for the race start. There is no weather expected in the session, so it's not like we completely re-rolled the dice on what weather we would be getting. Just some last minute laps out there for consistency before we get started with our 45-minute race. Now we are back set how we were. Sylph is rightfully given his pole position. And we will sit and watch and wait for just a couple minutes as we get ready to get started with our race for tonight. 45 minutes around Bathurst Mount Panorama. One stop is required, and a pit stop here. Not going to lose too much time, but you are going to use quite a bit of your tires, especially if you're in one of those rear-engined Porsches or one of those front-engined rear-wheel drive V8 Ford Mustangs. Definitely like to torque the rear tires out, and there is going to be quite a bit of sliding here. Just trying to get on the power as nice and smooth as possible. But if you are pushing, you are going to maybe just go past the limits of the mechanical grip of those tires. Again, just waiting for a couple minutes so we can get started with this formation lap once again. And we will just take another quick 2-minute break, and we will be right back. Glad to be back as well, Nate. And you guys on YouTube, you don't have any ads, so congratulations. I don't think many people on the Twitch side see the ads much anyway. Majority of you guys are subscribed. Or if you don't want to see ads, which you're not really missing much, which is why I run the ads here in the short breaks, you can subscribe to the Twitch with Twitch Prime or just a standard Twitch subscription. It also means that if you re-watch the races post-race on Twitch, you won't get any ads there as well. "30 seconds away, and we will be engines fired." And welcome back, those of you who may have seen an ad. We are engines fired and ready to get rolling with our formation lap. And everyone in their rightful places they earned in qualifying. Sylph back at the front will lead the field off the line to get started with this Round 6 GoFAST Racing Season 5 Round 6 here at Bathurst Mount Panorama. Up the mountain straight, looking back, quite a large gap. Sylph to the rest of the field, but dragging those brakes, trying to get them up to temperature as quick as possible. Looking across the countryside over to the grandstands at Murray's Corner and the Chase. And then looking back through the trees. Very pretty sights here at Bathurst. Corporal Nono, thank you for the follow as well. clutch kick there from Griffith in the Mustang as well, I believe. As we come up into the cutting, we get the money shot there, which is one of my absolute favorite shots in all of racing. And we will watch the field come up through the cutting. Did miss one back there, the Ferrari, the 93 Ferrari of Guzman. We may have been a late join. Ouroboros still at the front. Sorry, not at the front, it's Silth at the front. Ouroboros was just scored ahead at the timing line. It will be Silth leading this race. And will it be Silth leading in 45 minutes time? We cross the checkered flag. Only one way to find out, and that is to be here as we just about to line up 2x2 as we come down the Conrad Straight. Cars going back quite a ways. As we get our final bits of weaving to try and warm up those tires before we line up side by side for the race start. Silth is ready. A bit more weaving left and right, just trying to warm up those tires before we find out why they call it Hell Corner when we cross the start-finish line. Line up 2x2 now as they come into the chase. And we stack up and get ready to take the green flag and get started with GoFAST Racing Season 5, Round 6 here at the Mountain. Out of Murray's, two extremely quick drivers lined up beside each other with Griffith and Aramith, no slouches either. As they come just over the crest and down the hill, it will be green, green, green. We are racing GoFAST Racing Season 5, Round 6 here at Bathurst Mount Panorama, and we find out just why they call it Hell Corner. Looking backwards from Silth, everything looks just about okay. They are 2x2 up the hill. What about for the lead? Silth has got it. Ouroboros under attack. And is that Ouroboros going a touch wide? It is, and that is going to be Aramich who will line up just ahead. Will be Silth leading, Aramich P2. Ouroboros knocked down to P3. Griffith and Peach, that's a long train going back. What about in the Amfield? Schwartz back up top. Jones in P2, Silva in P3. It may be a bit of a slugfest between Jones and Silva for that second place position. Can Aramich hold back the hard-charging Ferrari of Ouroboros? A lot of speed in that Ferrari and definitely out-qualified Aramich, but Aramich was able to take advantage early. Prieto about to be under attack from Platypus as well. Pressure from the P's. Harvey and the Aston Martin under attack by your mom as well, coming into the chase, but not quite close enough to go for it. And Silth coming into Murray's, survives one lap clean and will lead the first lap of this race. For Aramich, things are a little bit different. He got the position, but now he's got to try and hold on to it. Ouroboros is pushing. He is not going to let Aramich get away with this one easy. Prieto with Platypus in the slipstream behind, but that GTR is quick in a straight line. Is it quick enough to hold back the Mercedes, who have a long history of success here in the GT3 series, GT3 class here at Bathurst? Stacking up a bit now between Aramich and Ouroboros. Griffith not too far behind as well. And no lifting now as they come through Frog Hollow and Reed Park, just pushing, trying to carry as much speed as they can. And Ouroboros in a little bit of that dirty air. You see the front end of that Ferrari 296 GT3 just wiggling the slightest, trying to get the front wheels to cooperate. And down through the S's and the Dipper, it's got a little bit, maybe some butterflies in your stomach as you watch it from the rear view. Definitely different than looking down the hill when you look back up the hill. And right now, Aramich is surviving. Same thing with Prieto, Platypus behind. Marvy and your mom, the gap grown there between those two just a bit. And it is tight running going all the way back. Langley has now split the gap between Jones and Silva, giving Jones a little bit of room to breathe. And Jones in that Lexus, which is extremely quick in a straight line, trying to get the position on Tycho Path, has the opportunity to open up the inside, but doesn't opt to take it. Langley going a bit deep into the chase will get the position back to Silva. Silth getting further and further away, and Ouroboros trying to work on Aramich as best as possible. Have we had somebody come into the pit lane? And yes, we have. Phoenix Gecko had that qualifying ban started from the back of the pack, gets the pit stop out of the way early. I think is just going to be on an alternate strategy, trying to gather up as many positions as possible. Going back with the Porsche of Adrian, dropped down a couple positions, now behind Slapshot, who has also dropped a couple positions. At least looked that way. I think I may have just been looking at the timing board a bit wrong. Selena's P15 wanted to go for the move on Adrian up the inside at the cutting, but that's quite the hard move to make. But applying pressure coming through Frog Hollow, Reed Park, maybe has an opportunity arising soon. Aramich still with Ouroboros and Griffith close behind. Same with Prieto and Platypus. Prieto and Platypus trying to push to catch Giant. Platypus all over the rear bumper of that GTR though, but when that GTR gets on the power coming down the Conrad Straight, it's probably not the easiest thing to try and keep behind. Slipstream very much doing a great service to that Mercedes AMG GT3. Is this going to be a move for the overtake down into the chase? Prieto goes defensive around the outside, tries Platypus. Is it going to be an overshoot from Prieto? No, it's not. And nose to tail, they continue to run. The gap to Silth grows even further. What has happened to the 93? That is a 93 Ferrari of Guzman around at the Forest Elbow. And a bit of damage on that Ferrari as well. Coming out of the pit lane is that Chandler. in the Mercedes. Yes, it is Christian B in the Ferrari coming in as well. And early pit stops, quite a few. Slapshot coming into the pit lane. And I think this is just to try and get out of the pack and run faster laps than the rest of the field. Aramich, once again, still under attack from Ouroboros, and it does seem to be that Ouroboros is gaining positive time on Aramich. Griffith getting closer as well. Brute and the Aston Martin started to come into the frame as well. And the flashing of the lights from Platypus. Platypus with a big moment, going for a wild ride, saves it. Now has Scroll in the BMW just behind, and we have had an incident at the top of the hill. I want to say that was Scroll in the BMW. I think it was one of the other BMWs. Wasn't Phoenix, I don't think, or maybe it was. Somehow did not cause an incident there. Your mom in the pit lane, though, yellow flags. That usually indicates a return to garage. Some sort of catastrophic failure there. Wonder if maybe your mom got involved with that incident there and had to return to the garage to not make a major incident. The gap has now grown between Aramich and Ouroboros. Krato and Platypus continuing their fight as well. The gap has now closed back up. Platypus almost had that huge moment coming out of Reed Park. And now your mom in the pit lane is going to lose a lap here. The 427 of Nate with a large pack behind Salinas, YOLO, Lemon, Iceberg, Adrian. Salinas and Nate in a battle coming out of Hell Corner, now up the mountain straight. And it is a slipstream fight between all of them. Side by side between Salinas and YOLO, Lemon. Into Griffins, though. Salinas will hold the inside. Does the opportunity arise for YOLO? Gets a bit of the curb, which is not the optimal line there through Griffin's Bend. And Iceberg wanted to take advantage, but not quite going to be afforded the option. It's getting tight between these top five, at least the rest of the top five. The leader has well off gone on vacation off into the distance, and we'll see you next week. Aramich, Ouroboros, Griffith, and Brute, these second through fifth four cars now starting to get very, very compact, and more Aramich maybe keeps this group compacted. We may start to see Peach and Giant work their way into this fight as well. Can't rule out Platypus or Prieto as well either. Still your leader in AM. Jones P3 and AM, Silva P4, but there may be a fight between Silva and Peachy for that AM podium. If Peachy can catch up to the rear end of Silva, does barely seem to be within slipstream range. He is within slipstream range. Will he be close enough to catch, though? The 71 of your mom, now a lap down, has come into the pit lane and is going to have to try and gain back whatever he can. It's just going to be a search for points at this time. Not much left to find for the Slap Your Mom racing driver. Things getting dicey between Aramich and Ouroboros. And as Griffith and Brute start to get closer, maybe they start to battle simultaneously with this battle here. Ouroboros almost gets it wrong, makes contact with the inside wall up the cutting, and that is going to put Ouroboros now well under attack from Griffith and Brute. Now see blood in the water, wanting to get past, and no, it's not just because that Ferrari is red. A big lift coming into Reed Park for Ouroboros, now through McPhillamy. Ferrari does seem to kind of open up the gap a little bit. Griffith getting on the brakes a tad bit earlier than Ouroboros. Things are getting a lot tighter. Peach now in that conversation. Will Ouroboros be able to catch back up to Aramich? I don't think there's much of a question he should be able to, as Aramich just was not quite able to put together the time in qualifying. And it seems to be whatever gap that Aramich grows, it shrinks right back down pretty shortly. More drivers in the pit lane. The 333 of Cave in the Aston Martin with a bit of damage. Scoliosis, the first driver out of the pit lane. Sorry, that makes it Slapshot now as the timing board updates. And what happened to the 34 of Dingham into the pit lane? I think must have had a severe incident or got involved with one. I don't see much else for yellow flags. And this top 6 now about to be top 7, getting even more compact with each other. Preto and Platypus just continuing with their fight. Preto in the GTR, now starting to grow a little bit of a gap to Platypus. The gap between Aramich, Ouroboros, Griffith, Brute, Peach, and Giant shrinks a little bit more. 5 of these drivers all within a second of each other. Giant just outside of that, but the harder they race, the closer they will get to each other. See just in the background, Giant in the McLaren starting to sneak his way into that fight as well. Slugfest here between Preto and Platypus GTR versus Mercedes. And it is far from over. Seems to be holding his own. Ouroboros now more under pressure from Griffith and Brute as time goes on. That group of drivers getting closer and closer to each other. Again, going to have to watch Slapshot as we are getting close to the halfway point of this race. Our pit stops should start sometime soon. And in AM, Jones ahead of Tychopath has a barrier between himself and Silva. Silva, that's Peachy, Elmo, and Nightwalker not too far behind. This will be the battle for the final spot on the AM podium. Down the Conrad straight, Ouroboros, Griffith, Brute, Peach. The Giant just at the very back, and then get to the battle between Preto and Platypus, which has been continuing on for quite some time. Do have yellow flags on track though. Nightwalker in the Ferrari into the wall. We've got a couple cars involved as well. The 999 of Sierra involved. The 970 of Clint. And we have a blockage there. That does look like one of the Mustangs of Lynch involved as well. And that is the Porsche of Zoenom. So multiple cars involved in that incident. They're all trying to make it back down. It does seem to be not Lynch. I think that may be Christian B with a steering issue, unable to really get the car to go the right direction, but should be able to limp it back to the pit lane. Multiple cars involved there, as now we have some official pit stops starting, or at least some of our earlier scheduled pit stops. Yakashokas and Lingard coming into the pit lane to get their stops complete. Dingham, I believe, may be parked for the evening. Robert Smith, sorry for missing you on the YouTube side. P1 quality time was a 2:02, which we have seen times into the sub 2 minutes, but track conditions just did not quite allow for it tonight. Just saw your comment on the YouTube side. Majority of focus on the Twitch side, but again, thank you for watching on YouTube. Griffith and Brute break the mold and come into the pit lane. Is there anyone else in the pro field that will follow? Peach will stay out. I believe Giant will stay out as well. Maybe we get a pit lane battle here between Pareto and Platypus. These two have just been going at it from the very beginning of the race. And there has been no stopping them. One does not seem to be able to really break free of the other. Platypus has quit flashing the lights, at least for now. Knows that he is applying the pressure closer and closer, almost making contact with Prieto. Let's actually have a look at it from Platypus's perspective, looking forward, chasing the reigning champion of Prieto. Has a bit of front end understeer from that Mercedes and had to get a bit of a lift to not make contact with the wall or Prieto, and then gets right back onto the rear bumper. Mercedes does seem to have a little bit of the upper hand in low-end acceleration and gets right back up onto the rear of Prieto, but just not quite close enough to get the overtake done. Elma rolling out of the pit lane, Sierra in the pit lane, Lynch yet to come in, Nightwalker coming out of the pit lane. Clint, stop complete, has come out of the pit lane, and Christian B rolling out of the pit lane as well. So about half the grid has come into the pit lane to complete their stop. Still leading. Ouroboros jumps into the pit lane, and Giant follows suit as well. Is there anyone else that will be a taker? And Platypus has got it done. I don't think that Prieto was quite too fond with the move, though, flashing the lights as they come back around. And now Platypus very defensive to the inside to try and hold the racing line away from Prieto. Prieto with the higher top speed in that GTR. A bit of weaving back and forth trying to defend. Needs to hold the inside. Will Prieto be able to get this position back? And this has been the battle of the race so far. Currently for P6. Was for P7. Ouroboros in the pit lane, Giant in the pit lane. Ouroboros stop is clear, Giant stop is clear as well. Salinas and Schwartz in the pit lane. Schwartz, your AM leader. Silva in the pit lane and Manelli in the pit lane. Jones will come out of will come into the pit lane as the AM race leader, but will only be scored the leader for the moment. Best battle now for P4 between Platypus and Prieto. And when do they come into the pit lane? We are just about at the halfway point of this race. And is that Peach just ahead in the slipstream of the P27 Mustang of Lingard? Lingard gives flash of the light saying, "Go on ahead, man. You've got some blue flags on me, and go and get them." And Platypus has grown the gap between Prieto and himself. And do we see the entrance into the pit lane? Does it come from Prieto? Yes, it does. So maybe this is going to be an opportunity to gain some time back. We have seen Prieto and the Animus Racing team very, very quick in the pit lane. Ouroboros with Griffith now behind, and Ouroboros has a bit of damage on the side of that Ferrari. Was that contact with the wall? I believe it would have been. Marvy in the pit lane as well, YOLO Lemon in the pit lane. And that is the 91 of Phoenix Gecko, just trundling down the side of the track and having to return back to the pit lane. The 333 of Cave and the Mercedes of Chandler having a bit of a scrap between themselves. This is currently for P30. It looks to be about P10 in AM. Prieto rolling out of the pit lane just as that battle between Cave and Chandler goes by, and Prieto should be able to get past these two. Prieto does have superiority with those blue flags, so these two will yield to them, but between Cave and Chandler, it's going to be Chandler that will get the upper hand and get the position away from Cave. Ouroboros and Griffith. Those two tail now between themselves. Sylph still way out front. Aramich has closed the gap a little bit though. Was 8 seconds, now 7.3. And is that gap dropping? We'll wait and see the next time the timing boards update. And no, Aramich comes into the pit lane carrying the brake marker board with him, or sorry, the pit limiter board with him. So no one else gets to see where the pit limiter is. Is that going to cause any penalties as that board now falls off and goes bouncing off into the pit lane? I think there may be a penalty for that, but not on ACC. That would be more so in the real life machinery. Ouroboros and Griffith now well into a fight between the two as they come into the chase. Griffith wants to find the opportunity, but it will not be afforded. YOLO Lemon back into the pit lane. And is that a problem with the pit stop? Maybe not having enough fuel in the car. Ouroboros, Griffith, and Brute. Where is Aramich in all of this? Just now rolling out of the pit lane. Does Ouroboros get past? No, Aramich slots right in, back in front. And it's going to be Peach who will slot right back into his position as well. Giant may have gained a bit of time there, though. And it's Aramich back at the front. Will Ouroboros get the position? They make contact, and Ouroboros nearly goes around. Gets corrected, but now they're 3 wide coming into the cutting. Position was given back, or sorry, not given back. They were all kind of slotted back in line. In the midst of all of that is going to be Brute, the major gainer there, who will jump up into what should be P3 when these drivers come back, or when our leaders who have yet to pit come into the pit lane. This battle between Brute and Griffith is well on, and I can tell you right now that Ouroboros is blood boiling right now. As he is going to try and gain that time back. Platypus into the pit lane. Still awaiting Sylph to come in, waiting Iceberg to come in, but Iceberg, I believe, is coming in now. It's a double stack for the Elmer's Racing team. Langley comes into the pit lane as well, and Tychopath will join them, leaving our race leader of Sylph, the only driver yet to come into the pit lane. It's a bit of an Aston Martin fight here between the two, and right onto the bumper is Brute. And Brute wants a podium today. He can smell it. Probably can't smell much more than Aston Martin exhaust. In this top four fight that we have seen for the entire duration of the race, now the top five fight will continue. Platypus just rolling out of the pit lane as that top five goes by, but where is Prieto in all of this? Platypus holds on to the position. Prieto, if anything, lost a bit of time there. Still not over between the two. Battle for the lead in and between Schwartz and Silva. Schwartz with damage on the front end of that Mustang, may be a sitting duck to Silva. We shall see as they come down into Hell Corner. Silva has the inside, he has a nose. And Silva will have the position, and I think Schwartz knows that he is driving a wounded machine and just wants to lose as little time as possible, as Peachy, who has found himself back on the AM podium, is just behind, waiting to pick up the pieces. Griffith has overtaken Brute once again, and now Griffith on the charts to try and get the second place spot away from Aramich. Aramich once again racing on the back foot, just trying to hold everybody back behind. Has been able to hold his own in terms of position, but just has not been able to break away. Definitely will not be able to break away with the superior top speed that Ford Mustang will have. Battle between Giant and Platypus now, and this group stretches all the way back to Peach. Giant may just now be within slipstream range of Peach, Platypus within slipstream range of Giant, and we may have a battle from second all the way back to eighth. If Prieto can catch up, which I don't think he will, he's out there sitting all alone, no slipstream help whatsoever. If this group continues to get bunched up, we see just at the front Aramich, that Aston Martin in the foreground. We're looking back all the way back to Prieto in P9. Very close running at the front of the field. We do have yellow flags, though. That is the 333 of Cave in the Aston Martin coming across through the chase. The 99 of Schwartz now under attack from Peachy. I think that Mustang is a little bit more than just injured, as Peachy is looking to get this spot away from Schwartz as well. I don't think there will be much fight, but there will be a little bit of fight. And Scoliosis, the next car behind, just behind the Mustang of Lynch. Sylph comes into the pit lane, your race leader. It is Aramich, once again looking back at the pack, the very hungry pack, as they are trying to get this second place position away. Aramich has just put on the defense of a lifetime, currently defending for 30 minutes so far. And Armerg Hulau PG, thank you for the follow. It's a bit of a hard username to pronounce, but again, thank you. Sylph still in the pit lane, now off the jacks. I don't think he is necessarily going to be under attack for his position, and back out of the pit lane is clear, no penalties has just done it right as he needed. It's still a bit of a gap to Aramich. And Aramich has some company behind. We'll have to try and just hold on the best that he can. Is going to be getting some slipstream from the Ferrari of Sierra, though. And Schwartz has got the spot back, or still holding on to the position from Peachy, so that's not quite over between the two. And if they continue to battle, Scoliosis may be able to find himself an AM podium if he can maybe wedge himself into that group. There's a bit more laps that need to be run before we can really start fighting for position. I think it has more so just been a try and get to the end without dying situation. And Griffith in that Mustang is closing up very quickly to the rear end of Aramich in the Aston Martin. It also has that Ferrari of Sierra, who has got quite a few blue flags being waved. Maybe Aramich is not too disappointed, as he will have some slipstream to help himself. Brute almost making contact with Griffith there. And now Sierra will yield. Cuts back across, does not want anyone to try and gain any more slipstream than they can. A lot of weaving to try and break the toe as they come back down into the chase once more. And just nose to tail they run. It is going to be Peach caught up by Sierra though, but Sierra will give a little bit of slipstream and then yield. And Peach just outside of slipstream range, but the harder they battle at the front, the faster that these guys behind will be able to run, which means that they will be able, or they will be dropping time to those cars behind, which will bunch up this pack even more. We could have 8 cars all fighting for position at the end of this race in the closing stages. Schwartz has now dropped off with Peachy and Scoliosis. That gap between the two is dropping even further, was well over 3 seconds now, right around 3 seconds. Schwartz and Peachy now about 1 second between the two. Aramich, Griffith, Brute, Ouroboros. Peach trying to get on to the back end of this pack. We've got a 3-way battle for position between Slapshot, Adrian, and Langley. I think this may just be a fight between Adrian and Langley now. And Nate at the back of that group as well. We'll have a bit of a too-slow battle here between Langley and Nate. Pink and blue and turquoise cars of the Too Slow Racing BMW and the MSA Too Slow Ford Mustang will get closer to each other, maybe racing each other, the fellow admins of Too Slow Racing. Coming down into the chase. Brute getting a little bit more antsy. Brute gets too antsy, goes off and around on his own. And that will put him back behind Prieto, possibly behind Marvy. Marvy can get close enough, I don't think so, but that is going to push Brute right out of it. He had the speed, he was very aggressive, just a little bit too aggressive, and not much time to recover. Loses the position, loses the rear of the car, gives the spots away. And now it is Griffith and Ouroboros to do battle for P3. Peach and Platypus just behind. This Platypus is right on the rear bumper of Peach. This group is compacting slowly and slowly, but it is starting to get a little bit more dense. They are starting to race a little bit harder. Knight has gone past Langley. Likely some camaraderie between the two, giving the position to the quicker driver, which does seem to be Nate for the time being. Peachy and Schwartz, this is for P2 in AM. Both of these drivers fighting for the 2 spots on the podium, as Silva has pretty much locked in the race lead. A Scroll was gaining on these two, but has now grown that gap to about 4 seconds. Elmo and Jones side by side, top speed Titans coming into Griffin's Bend. And it's going to be Jones that will be the benefactor there. Griffith and Ouroboros fighting for that final spot on the podium. Not quite late enough in the race to go for that late move into the chase, and a bit of a wiggle coming out of the penultimate corner for Ouroboros. Now things settle down. Water is smooth and tranquil as we get ready for the closing stages of this race, where we will really start to go for our positions. Schwartz and Peachy still racing hard. This is for P19 overall and P2 in AM. Schwartz seems to have figured out that Mustang, even though it doesn't look to be the fastest car out there. It's at least enough to hold off the McLaren of Peachy, and Scoliosis once again is closing that gap, but I don't think he's closing it quite fast enough. Got about half a second on that last lap. Yakashokis in the pit lane in the Aston Martin. And Griffith now with Ouroboros started to get a little antsy. Thought there may have been contact between Aramich and Griffith there, but I don't think so. But Aramich now, the defense is on, just a couple laps left to go in the race. Silt has pretty much written this one off. A large gap to this battle here. And as this group of cars is battling, it's very unlikely that they will be able to catch up to Silt, so he's maybe just kind of driving at about 95%, not really having to push. Platypus does hold the fastest lap of the race. And what happened to Platypus? He was right there in that fight at the top, but maybe gone around on his own. Does seem to be a bit of damage on the rear, so if there was an incident, the stewards will be looking at it. And I think the two slow guys may be giving each other a little bit of slipstream. Nate goes too deep into the chase, though. And Langley having to back up just a bit as to not make contact. Battle between Griffith and Aramich coming into Griffin's Bend. Up through the cutting. It is crunch time. Less than 5 minutes to go in this race. Just a couple laps to go. About 3 more for the checkered flag. And Peach has now done the work. He's got himself back up into the conversation for that podium. And if this battle continues on just a little bit further, Giant could possibly be in that conversation as well, but that's a little bit more of a long shot. Prieto all on his own in P7, Brute down to P8, Harvey in P9. Regardless, it has been a good run for the Aston Martins. Back on this battle between Schwartz and Peachy for the second spot in AM. And that gap once again grows to Scroll. The 33 of Lingard, a little bit too deep into the chase. And that is a lot of damage on that Ford Mustang. Aramich, Griffith, Ouroboros, Peach. 4 cars fighting for 1 spot, and that is a 2nd spot. Or the opportunity to stand on the podium. As of right now, that podium position is being decided by Aramich and Griffith as they hold 2nd and 3rd. Ouroboros, who really wants to try and regain some points for the Animus Racing team, will not be able to take the win. That is going to be Silth, and Silth is definitely shoehorning himself into that conversation for the Pro Championship. Platypus, Contact, who else is involved? It does seem to be the 10 of Salinas, and it is. This is a couple drivers in your top 15 that have been involved. Platypus will lose a position. That's a lot of damage on that Mercedes AMG. Does it seem to drive the same? I think it may have a broken wing, and I don't think he knows that. Hopefully Platypus can hear the stream, but he does seem to have a broken wing on that Mercedes. His race is done. I think he may try and just limp it around the track long enough to regain some points, but I don't think it's really going to work out for him. We come across the line next. This will be the final lap of this race. The gap has grown between Griffith and Ouroboros. Lingard in that Mustang with damage. And now the gloves are off, coming down to the final lap of this race. Platypus has gone into the pit lane. This is a fight for P2 in AM between Peachy and Schwartz. We will be watching it. Griffith and Aramich, the gap has grown between the two, especially with the traffic there, and Ouroboros gets caught out. That is going to put Ouroboros under attack from Peach. Aramich has pretty much run in 2nd place for the entirety of this race, has played defense every single lap. Played a little bit of offense at the very beginning of the race, and it has been defense ever since then. Sierra off at the chase as well. And as of right now, he's got a pretty good shot at taking home that 2nd place position, which would be a very good points finish for Aramich, especially throughout this season. Peach trying to find a spot on Ouroboros, as Ouroboros is definitely pushing maybe a little bit too hard. It's way too late in the race to throw it all away now. Maybe come this far, you've got to try and scrape something a little bit more together. It's still P4 for Ouroboros. He is pushing like it's a qualifying lap to try and catch up to Griffith and Aramich just up ahead. Griffith still trying to catch Aramich. Ouroboros, I believe, gets it wrong. Had to go straight on through the chicane at Skyline, down through the S's. And that is going to put Peach right back onto the rear bumper. It is Ouroboros at risk of losing a position here. Silth down the Conrad straight, just behind the number 25 Ford Mustang. I believe that is Christian B. And Silth will take the checkered flag. Just hop on quickly with this battle between Ouroboros and Peach. Silth takes home the checkered flag, wins it at Bathurst. Aramich will bring home P2. Griffith will bring home P3. It's a 2nd place spot for Aramich. Ouroboros just outside of the podium. Peach takes home P5, Giant P6, Prieto P7. Still good points finish for the Animus Racing boys. Very good finish for Brute, but had an opportunity at a higher finish. It's a very good run for the Aston Martins here at Bathurst. 3 Aston Martins in the top 10, tied with the Ford Mustang. Slapshot will at least bring home a top 10 for the Slap Your Mom racing team, but it's not quite the result that he was looking for. Nate will bring home P11, Langley P12, Iceberg will bring home P13. Tycho Path will bring home P14. Adrian will bring home P15, and it's another win in AM for Silva. Takes home the win for the AM division. Salinas P17. Schwartz will not take home P2. Peachy steals it at the last second. Schwartz P3 in AM. Scoliosis will bring home P4. Jones will bring home P5 in AM. P20 overall. Elmo will bring home P6. Manelli P7. And Zoanam, who had to come into the pit lane with damage, will come in P28 overall. 63 Ford Mustang of Lynch still to cross the line, and the 25 Ford Mustang of Christian B will be the final car to cross the line. Silth, Aramich, and Griffith, your overall podium, and Silva, Scoliosis. Sorry, not Silva, Scoliosis. It was Silva, Peachy, and Schwartz, your podium in AM. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't go anywhere just yet. We will be finding somebody to raid. Again, thank you all for tuning in on the YouTube side. It's been quite a few of you for this stream, about equal to that here on Twitch. And we will go ahead and raid Pit Skill. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you all next week.